Time, oh time, please won't you tell all the stories you know so well. Time, oh time, please won't you say the stories of yesterday right now. Time, oh time, oh time, oh time. Time, oh time. Time, oh time, please won't you tell all the stories you know so voices crying in the wilderness. Come and see, come and see. Voices crying in the wilderness. Come and see, come and see my people. Voices crying in the wilderness. Voices crying in the wilderness. Pain, way of the Lord. Everybody the people down. Everybody will be exalted. And the crooked will be made straight. That day. Time, oh time, please won't you tell me all the stories you know so well. Time, oh time, please won't you say the stories of yesterday right now. Time, oh time, oh time, oh time. Time, oh time. Time, oh time, please won't you
I got a secret that I'd like you to understand. See the book there in the angel's hand. Book of Daniel has got a message for you, a message for you. The angel cries as a lion sound. Babylon's gonna fall, gonna come to the ground. Mystery finishes, he has declared to his servants the prophets. Won't you beware? Won't you beware? Welcome everybody to another live stream. Let's fix this camera here. Whoa. Oh, we got the microphone in the frame. That's okay. That's okay. Well, talk about a book sealed till the end of days. What book might that be? Well, we know in Revelation that there's the scroll sealed with 7 seals. But there's another book. Or is it the same book? That's also spoken about that is sealed till the end of days. And I'm actually going to be analyzing a bit of the words from that song there because a lot of it is pretty deep. And I really won't get too far into it, but we'll be able to cover some ground today. Let's get the text up on the screen and we'll get right into it. Boom. There we go. Okay, so here we are reading from the book of Daniel. And it says, and at that time, talking about what's happening at the end of time, he says, well, we'll get into that. At the end of time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which stands for the children of your people. This is the angel talking to Daniel. And he's obviously talking about the Hebrews. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. Time of trouble that has never preceded it in magnitude. Kind of parallels to our present day, but this is one thing I want to point out, is that a lot of people say that what the angel just revealed to him in the previous chapters has already played out in history. It's already a done deal. This is already over. Close the book. Move on. But here's the thing. If this is an eternal plan, it's going to keep manifesting in different stages and different levels. And that's what we're actually seeing. We're seeing it manifest in different ways at different times, but continuously that same blueprint is continually happening over and over and over again in different ways, but the same, thing. So actually, you know what? Before we continue, I'm gonna put this on. This is my 4th take because OBS just kept crashing, and 4th time's a charm. But moving on, we're just gonna do this because it's getting a bit late, and I have a lot of work to finish up before tomorrow. So, well, actually, not a lot of work. I just got to do stuff this evening, and it's already like getting dark. So we got to get on that too. But first things first, let's read the text. So, eternal plan manifesting, and then he goes on to say, at that time your people shall be delivered, everyone that shall be found written in the book. Now, Revelation also talks about this, the judgment that happens on basis of the book. And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake. And what does that mean? There's a few passages that talk about a resurrection and literal resurrection. It's not metaphorical, because the metaphorical happens first. But when we transcend this physical dimension, there is a literal resurrection, and we're going to see that actually in the book of Daniel, in the book of Revelation, in the book of Ezekiel. I'm learning the English names, so bear with me. But we'll get into that in a bit if there's time. Let's continue. So them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. Now, why might that be? Well, that's because of the choices these people made during their life, and basically in relationship to their relationship with Source, how they walked or turned in the other direction and hightailed it into the kingdom of darkness. And that is going to be the ultimate payment for their decisions and the ultimate manifestation, let's say. And they that are wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament, and they that turn many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever. But you, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. Now, he's talking about the time of the end here, and it says, many shall run to and fro. Many, like, they'll just be, like, in this mental commotion, and they're just going to be going this way, going that way, trying to do this thing, and save up, you know, whatever life savings and work to do this and go here and go there for a vacation or whatever. But they'll be running to and fro, and they won't really be doing it with any purpose. They'll think there's a purpose, but really at the end of the day, what do they have to show for themselves? They're just kind of doing this to keep their ego satiated, but they're not really tapped in. And knowledge shall be increased. No, knowledge shall be increased. Well, we're seeing that beyond like we've ever seen it before. Even, you know, with the printing press, then we had, what was it? The industrial age, all of this stuff, you know, the world gets smaller and smaller. The distances got smaller and not smaller, but you know what I mean. And all of this stuff is proliferating knowledge, but is it real valuable understanding, you know? Or is it just superficial, how to say, mind candy, but it doesn't really get you any nutrition? Let's see what goes on here. Then I, Daniel, looked, and behold, there stood other two, the one on this side of the bank of the river, and the other on that side of the bank of the river. He's actually seeing John in the book of Revelation, but let's just see what he says here. And one said to the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, how long shall it be to the end of these wonders? And I heard the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, when he held up his right hand and his left hand unto the heaven, and swear by him that lives forever, that it shall be for a time, times, and a half. Oh, sorry, guys. Follow along in the passage here. A time, times, and a half. Meaning 3.5. So time, times, and a half. 3.5. 3.5 times or 3.5 years, but that year can also be the spiritual year, which is 1,000 years. And we'll get to that in a bit. Because Daniel has his visions around 500 or so BC, and talking about we're like 2,000 years into the future from there, and then there's the 1,000 years of messianic reign before the close of all physical reality. So this is basically what it's saying, but we'll get to this in a bit. And when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people, all these things shall be finished. And we'll get to that. And I heard, but I understood not. Then said I, O my Lord, what shall be the end of these things? Now here's it. And he said, Go your way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed till the time of the end. Many shall be purified and made white and tried. So in other words, to be purified and made white, it's like, you know, the gold going into the furnace. For that dross to rise up, it has to be put in that heat, and it has to be subjected to that kind of intensity. And that's what makes us white. That's what purifies us. But the wicked shall do wickedly. The wicked are just going to keep doing what they're doing. They're just going to do wickedly. And none of the wicked shall understand. But the wise shall understand. This is a very, very powerful statement. None of the wicked shall understand. And sometimes it hurts us because we want to see the wicked, you know, change their ways. We want to see them actually realize what's going on. But they can't, because that's just that's just it. We do our best to be examples. We can talk to them here and there, and as topics come up, we might use satire to get them to think a little bit. Maybe those seeds might grow, and who knows? Sometimes people do change, but when you see them and you're like, dude, why don't you get it? Why don't you get any of this? We can't be that way, because we just got to know that some people, the wicked, the people that have chosen it inside of the sacrifice will be taken away, and the abomination that makes desolate set up. There shall be 1,290 days. Blessed is he that waits and comes to 1,335 days. But go you your way till the end, for you shall rest and stand in your lot at the end of the days. He's saying to Daniel, guess what? I'm telling you this. You're going to write it down, but it's not for you. It's not for your generation. You're not even going to be alive. You're going to die, but you're going to rise up in your lot at the end of the days. And this goes back to what he says in verse 2. Many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. Now, that is talking about the resurrection. Now, we can, I'm just going to, where are we going to go? I'm going to take my time with this, guys, because this is a very important live session. But we are just going to kind of do it at a fast pace, because time is getting a bit late here. But I'm going to take my time and actually go through every single passage the source is telling me to talk about. I'm not going to skip anything. But yeah, fast pace. So keep a notebook handy or something, because we're going to cover a lot. So you're going to go to Yehezekiel, English, Ezekiel. Okay? Chapter 37. This is a very famous passage, and it's talking about the valley of dry bones. Okay? For the hand of Yahweh was upon me and carried me out in the spirit of Yahweh and set me down in the midst of a valley which was full of bones. Now, this happens sometimes to some of us that are visionaries or seers. Literally, it's like you're being pulled out of your body. And yeah, it's just like sources like, hey, I got to show you this. Boom. And really, you don't have any thought in the matter, but what you come back with, it's all worth it. So this is what Ezekiel, I'll get it right. Ezekiel saw in his vision. And it caused me to pass by them round about. And behold, there were very many in the open valley, and lo, they were very dry, which means these bones, like, they were dead for a very, very long time. Because even after, like, the vultures eat the flesh and all of that stuff, the bones aren't dry. The bones aren't dry till, they really dry out. It takes time for bones to dry. Let's just say that. And he said unto me, Son of man, can these bones live? And I answered, O Lord Yahweh, you know. Now, point out, every time it's capitalized, it's Yahweh. So sometimes Lord is capitalized, like right here, that's Yahweh. But sometimes God is capitalized, even though it's not Elohim. When God is capitalized, that's the word for Yahweh. And then if Lord precedes it, that's Adonai. Right here. Adonai Yahweh. Okay? For those that read Hebrew. But anyway, again, he said unto me, Prophesy upon these bones, and say unto them, O you dry bones, hear the word of Yahweh. Thus says the Lord Yahweh unto these bones, Behold, I will cause breath to enter into you, and you shall live. He's talking to the bones here. The bones are going to be infused with the spirit. Spirit and breath are basically the same word. Ruach in Hebrew. Okay? And I will lay sinews upon you, and will bring up flesh upon you, and cover you with skin, and put breath in you. So with the bones, we have 5 phases of basically, well, it's a progression, and I made a video about this before, but I won't get into that. And you shall live, and you shall know that I am Yahweh. Basically, the cycle is closing, and all of that has been spent, and you thought, your life was wasted, and you died in battle, and it's all futile. Guess what? I am Yahweh, and I saw all of that, and it's going to be restored. Okay, so Ezekiel prophesies as he was commanded, and as he prophesied, there was a noise, and behold, a shaking, and the bones came together, bone to his bone. Now, this is in the vision, mind you, okay? This is in the vision. And when I beheld, lo, the sinews and the flesh came up upon them, and the skin covered them above, but there was no breath in them. Like this must have been like an amazing sight, just to think about it. When you see the bones like laying like just all scattered, and then all of a sudden, as you're speaking to them, this is like basically your intent and your word manifesting. All of a sudden, the bones start shaking and coming together, and then you start to see all this like sinews would be basically like the tendons or like the fascia, right? And then the muscles and all of that stuff comes together, and then you start seeing it overlaid with skin. Like, man, what a sight, right? Just to imagine. But there was no breath in them. Then said he unto me, prophesy unto the wind. Same word here. Wind, spirit, breath. It's all ruach, or ruach, depending on how you pronounce it, but it's spelled ruach. Prophesy unto the wind, prophesy, son of man, and say to the wind, thus says the Lord Yahweh, come from the four winds, O breath, and breathe upon these slain that they may live. So I prophesied as he commanded me, and the breath came into them, and they lived, and stood up upon their feet, an exceeding great army. Then, this is the point here, he said unto me, son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel. Behold, they say, our bones are dried, and our hope is lost. We are cut off for our parts. Therefore prophesy and say unto them, thus says the Lord Yahweh, behold, O my people, I will open your graves. Now, there was no grave here in the valley of dry bones, but he's talking as a symbol. He's using this as a symbol, but he's actually saying this is what it's all about. I will open up your graves and cause you to come up out of your graves and bring you into the land of Israel. And you shall know that I am Yahweh, when I have opened your graves, O my people, and brought you up out of your graves. So when we see this, we're just going to be like, yeah, there's no denying. There's no denying. It's not going to be like a zombie apocalypse. They're literally going to be like absolutely restored bodies. This is what it's talking about. And shall put my spirit in you, and you shall live, and I shall place you in your own land. Then shall you know that I, Yahweh, have spoken it and performed it, says Yahweh. Sorry, I'm reading from the book, and I got to follow on the screen. But this is just one example, okay? Now, actually, I'm going to cover a little bit here from the Oracle of Hosea, where he also says something about the restoration here. Hosea chapter 6. And this is also talking about the Messianic age, mind you, which I did a video about. Very, very, very briefly scratched the surface. Like, this is like my topic, right? So there's so much here, and there's so much that churchianity just doesn't know about when it's talking about the Messianic age and the New Jerusalem. Like, there's actually two stages of this, and they're separated by about 1,000 years each. And that's what we're talking about when we're talking about the Sabbath, 1,000 years, or the third day since Christ. But let's see this. In chapter 6, where is it here? Right here. After 2 days, this is talking about Israel again. After 2 days, he will revive us. In the third day, he will raise us up. So after those 2,000 years are up, in the third day, that third day is literally that 1,000-year millennial reign. Yeah, I was saying it right. In the third day, he will raise us up, and we shall live in his sight. Then shall we know, if we follow on to know Yahweh, his going forth is prepared as the morning, and he shall come unto us as the rain, as the latter and former rain unto the earth, mirroring the oracle of Joel there, which also talks about the great outpouring in the Messianic age. I won't get into that because I've talked about that plenty in previous episodes. Actually, you know what? Let's just do that really quickly. The oracle of Joel. And it shall come to pass afterward, I will pour my spirit upon all flesh. This is also talking about the Messianic age. Sons and daughters prophesy, old men shall dream dreams, young men shall see visions, even upon the servants and the handmaids. So just like Zechariah says, from the lowest to the greatest will be sanctified, and everybody's going to prophesy. So you can't go out and say, hey, thus said the Lord, because they're going to be like, hey, Yahweh talks to me directly too, so you're kind of moot just coming out with that. And but this oracle closes and says that whosoever shall call in the name of Yahweh shall be delivered. For in Mount Zion and in Jerusalem shall be deliverance, as Yahweh has said, and in the remnant whom Yahweh shall call. Those are the people left in the final story. Let's cover Zechariah. At the very end, it says this: in that day shall be upon the bells of the horses holiness unto Yahweh. Now, this was written on the priest's mitre, and it literally means that from the most mundane objects, like your pen, it's going to be consecrated with that divine purpose. All the way, every pot in Jerusalem and Judah shall be holiness unto Yahweh of hosts, and all that sacrifice. Sorry. And the pots in Yahweh's house shall be like the bowls before the altar. So even the pots you just boil out of will be as important as the sacrificial bowl. So that's a metaphor, but it's also, it's both. There's 7 layers. One is literal, one is metaphorical, so on and so forth. You can't throw out the literal just because you think, oh, I've graduated to the metaphor. You'll just put that seal right back on there. But anyway, we're talking about this 7,000, and we're gonna go to the apocalypse here and just cover this really quick, guys. Like I said, boom, 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 texts. Get your notepad out if you so choose. But right here we see that at the very end of Armageddon, we see the angel coming down and binding that old serpent, which is the devil, for 1,000 years. Okay? And so he should deceive the nations no more. But here's the catch: till the 1,000 years are fulfilled. After that, he's released. But here we have. So that's why I say there's 2 stages to this thing, and most of the, like the Left Behind series, or a lot of people talking about eschatology will lump it all in one setting. But there's actually 2 parts to this thing. There's Armageddon, and then there's Gog and Magog. I talked about that in the Messianic Age video, but we see that the judgment, the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Jesus and the word of God, which had not worshipped the beast. We won't get into the beast today, but yeah. Neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their foreheads or in their hands. They lived and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. So the rest of the dead lived not again until the 1,000 years were finished. This is the first resurrection. And then it says, after the 1,000 years had expired, Gog and Magog. Now, right there in the text, you can see that churches, most of the churches don't even know that. I don't know why. It says it very plainly. But that's a whole other issue. Armageddon is mentioned, I believe, in chapter 17. So you can see it is separated quite a bit. No, not 17, sorry. 16. And I'll just briefly prove that to you before we move on. Where is it? Here. Revelation 16, Armageddon. Okay? So, we've settled that. And then the 7th bowl of wrath, and then all the white horse, and then the judgment, and then 1,000 years, and then Gog and Magog. Gog and Magog is in Ezekiel in the next chapter after the Valley of Dry Bones, and it talks very lengthily about how that battle is going to go down. But let's go back to the book of Daniel. Okay? Where did we leave off? So all of this happens at the end, and it's sealed till the end. He says in verse 4, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. And people are just going to be confused. They're just going to be caught up in their worldly day-to-days and trying to do this, trying to do that, hoarding up money here, trying to, get a break from the mundane by going on vacations. That's what I assume also is summed up in that phrase. But knowledge shall be increased. Now, of course, the printing press was a shadow of that. The internet is a shadow of that. But this is just going to continue and continue. We're literally breaking through and entering more of this stage of end. And the more we enter that stage of the end, the more that seal is kind of working off. But we're not there yet. But we are uncovering a whole lot more, especially in this time. It's like the veil is just pulled back. And if you have eyes to see, you're just going to see corruption left and right. But the wicked shall do wickedly, none of the wicked shall understand. No matter how the veil is pulled back and no matter how obvious things are, they're still gonna be like, no, I think the government has my best interest in mind. The government cares about my health. Anyway, gotta be careful what I say on YouTube. But go your way till the end. Daniel, don't worry about it. Just keep on living life. Do what you're doing. For you shall rest. You're going to die. And stand in your lot at the end of days. Talking about what was said in Revelation 20. Where he says... Oh, where did my revelation go? Anyway. Where he says in Revelation 20. Same thing. And I saw thrones and them that sat upon them. And judgment was given unto them. Then after this there's a great white throne. And him that sat on it. Whose face the earth and heaven fled away. And there was found no place for them. And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God, and the books were opened, and another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books according to their works. And the sea gave up the dead which were in it, and death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them, and they were judged every man according to their works. Whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. So this is talking about the end of days when, it's all going to play out. The white, we're going to be put on white robes, It says that in Revelation 8, Revelation 18, I believe. Revelation 18. Nope, 19. No, go back. Revelation 19, it says this, that the saints come in white robes, white horses clothed in fine linen, white and clean. And that's the thing, purified, made white, and tried. As it says here in Daniel. Purified. Oh, where are you? Purified, white, and tried. And that's what we got. But the book is sealed. And especially the wicked, they're just going to continue doing wicked, right? But there's one other point I wanted to point out, and that was in the song here. Actually, there's a couple. We'll see what I can get to. Yes, the seven thunders. We're talking about in the days of the seventh angel when he shall begin to sound. Oh, I believe that's 10. Yes. So we have the mighty angel came down from heaven, clothed with a cloud, and a rainbow was upon his head, and his face was as it were the sun, and his feet are as pillars of fire. This is the appearance of an angel, okay? This isn't even God. So it's very easy, especially when you have a vision, to think that the angel's all this, wow, man, you're like superior. But, angels aren't anything special. And I actually want to point that right out here. Where is it? So this angel says to John in the Apocalypse, blessed are they which are called to the marriage supper of the Lamb. And he said unto me, these are the true sayings of God. And this is John, okay? The disciple that was closest to Jesus. That when Jesus was dying, he even said, my mother's now your mother, and mother, this is your son, take care of her, basically. This guy that was so close to Jesus, and that actually had this final revelation, because, there's revelations from the apostles, there's revelations from Paul, which are really deep. But this guy saw the revelation that is written here, and this is how tuned in he was, to put it a certain way. And this guy fell at the feet of the angel to worship him. And he said unto me, See, you do not do it. I am your fellow servant, and of your brethren that have the testimony of Jesus. Worship God. For the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. That prophecy is basically the logos that creates the future. Now, this parallels something that I saw in one of my visions. Basically, it's like you're undone, but the angels is like, don't worship anything created, man. Worship the creator of the creation. Like, all of these things you can use for a specific purpose, but when you're really tapping in, don't get distracted by the physical, tools, utensils, don't fall to that level, because you're just going to basically sabotage your own connection. But this angel came down, okay, and he had in his hand a little book open, and he set his right foot upon the sea and his left foot on the earth. And he cried with a loud voice, as when a lion roars. And when he cried, 7 thunders uttered their voices. Now you'd think, like, if anything would wake somebody up, it's 7 thunders, right? Like, pow, 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 pow. That was 8, but anyway, you get the point. And when the 7 thunders had uttered their voice, I was about to write, and I heard a voice from heaven saying unto me, Seal up those things which the 7 thunders uttered, and write them not. So we don't even know what these 7 thunders said. And the angel which I saw stand upon the sea and upon the earth lifted up his hand to heaven, and swear by him that lives forever and ever, who created heaven and the things that are there. Does this sound familiar? We just read this in Daniel. Where does it say? Daniel 12. And I heard the man clothed in linen who was upon the waters, and when he held up his right hand and left hand unto heaven, and swear by him that lives forever, and he saw these 2 people on the other side of the river. That's what I said. He's basically seeing John and this angel, and then he's there watching this whole thing play out. This is the time of the end, and it's quite interesting here. So he swears by the who created heaven, the one that lives forever and ever, Yahweh, the self-existing one. Yahweh, which literally means he is, or he always he exists in eternity, past, present, future. Existed, exists, and forever shall exist. And that's the cycle of justice, What you put out is what you get back. That's the covenant God. It's all embodied in that name, and that's why that name is so sacred to rabbinical Judaism, and even Judaism before that, mind you. The Masoretes, who used to write the scriptures out, they would be so meticulous, but the one thing that they would do is when they came to the name of Yahweh, they would literally get up, wash their hands, and then write every time. And this name appears so many times, as you can see, not from Daniel, but from basically other even in Daniel. It's in Daniel too. The only book that doesn't mention God outright is the book of Esther, and even that, it's allegorical in I won't get into that, but yeah, symbolic. God is basically portrayed, and the marriage, Song of Songs, it's all kind of in there. But that's a beautiful book, guys. Song of Songs. I really want to do a really in-depth study on that, but that's pretty heavy. That's pretty heavy, getting really deep with your connection with source. Yeah. Okay, but this angel swears, and he says, In the days of the voice of the 7th angel, when he shall begin to sound, the mystery of God should be finished, as he declares to his servants the prophets. That's basically what the song said, word for word. Right? So this is it. In the days of the voice of the 7th angel, when he shall begin to sound, the mystery of God should be finished, as he has declared to his servants the prophets. So all that prophecy is fulfilled. All that prophecy is fulfilled. And yet Jesus said, I've not come to abolish the law and the prophets, but to fulfill them. And yet this is a revelation that was revealed about Jesus after he died, as at in heaven, you know, like you read Revelation 1 and he comes in like his eyes are like fire, his sword is like his tongue is like a sword, and you know, his hair is like white and it's radiance, like all of this stuff. Like this is not the physical, this is like the transcendent Christ, the transcendent Jesus. And even that had a revelation that it says, blessed are those who read and understand these words. But you know what? This is in those days the mystery of God is finished, which he has declared to his servants the prophets. So all of these prophecies, Ezekiel, you know, Daniel, Hosea, Zechariah, Joel, all of them, Zephaniah, you know, Isaiah talking about the wolf and the lamb lie together, and the little child shall lead them. You know, they'll beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. You know, like nation shall not raise up. Actually, I'm just going to quote that because in those days, all of the prophecies is fulfilled. Now, if Isaiah was judged on this prophecy, which actually he kind of was, they would say he was a false prophet, and actually he was put to death because of that. They cut the guy clean in half because, you know, the king didn't want to hear what he had to say. But check it out here. If we judge people now and we say, hey, this is a false prophet, get rid of them because their prophecy didn't come true, a year later? You know, when did Isaiah live? Right? He lived like, what is it now? Considering the Gregorian calendar is accurate and the rabbinical Jewish calendar is accurate, if you consider that, which I have my own thing about, but if you consider that, literally like what, at least 20, well, yeah, say 2,700 years ago. And it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain of Yahweh's house shall be established in the top of the mountains and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow unto it. You know what? I think most nations are against Israel taking possession of the Temple Mount. Just saying, you know. Is that a false prophecy? Right? Like, come on. And many people shall go and say, come and let us go up to the mountain of Yahweh, to the house of the God of Jacob. Jacob's name was changed to Israel. That's what it's talking about. And he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word of Yahweh from Jerusalem. That's what Joel said. In Zion will be deliverance, and in Jerusalem because of that remnant. Right? It's the same thing. Zephaniah says it too, but I won't get into that. I love Zephaniah, but Zephaniah. But you know, just to get into that book, man, like you can look at it and say, man, this is false prophecy. But what's it talking about, right? Yahweh in Jerusalem. He shall judge among the nations, shall rebuke many people. They shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. Now, is that metaphorical or is that pretty straightforward? You know? What does it say in Micah? In the last days, the mountain of the house of Yahweh shall be established in the top of the mountains. It shall be exalted above the hills, and people shall flow unto it. Word for word, guys. Pretty much, word for word. Law shall go forth from Zion, word of Yahweh from Jerusalem. Swords into plowshares, spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. But they shall sit every man under his vine and under his fig tree, and none shall make them afraid, for the mouth of Yahweh of hosts has spoken it. How would you like to sit under a vine, under a fig tree with your neighbors? Check it out. The wolf also shall dwell with the lamb, the leopard shall lie down with the kid. This is Isaiah. You know, was he a false prophet? Put him to death, man. We don't want to hear what he has to say. That was the king at the time. The cow shall, the calf and the young lion and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. right? It's talking about this messianic age. I did a video about this last time. What does he say? They shall not hurt or destroy in all my holy mountain, for the earth shall be full of the knowledge of Yahweh as the waters cover the sea. And we're actually looking at that outpouring right now, or at least a shadow of that before the Messianic age comes out. Because look at, Source has never had this many warriors actually stand up and fight. And this exact phrase is paralleled in the oracles of Habakkuk, where he says, for the earth shall be filled with the knowledge of the glory of Yahweh as the waters cover the sea. Everybody's going to know about this. Everybody's going to, like, there'll be no denying it. Let's see if I'm going to cover this here. No, that's okay. But yeah, basically this is what's going on here. And you know what? We're dealing with a book sealed. So when we open this seal, what happens? When we realize, it's actually, by the way, it's not up to us to open this seal. Let me be clear. But it's that Lamb, that living Logos that actually is basically, oh man. I'm just like cross-referencing in my head right now, because that Lamb is the redemption, and that redemption is basically the story of Ruth. Oh man, the 4 chapters of the book of Ruth. That was one of the first books I ever translated, and let me tell you, it's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing the gold mine that these people are sitting on, and yet you know what? It's just, it's sad, really. It's sad, really, because what do when people don't want to really get to the bottom of it? Or really, actually, they want to judge. Like, they're throwing the baby out with the bathwater, you know? They're just, like, judging the whole idea of, you know, the text, man. They're judging the text without having read it. Without having read this book, they're judging it based on, you know, the examples of the beast. And, you know, that's the same thing. They say, oh, the Madonna and child existed thousands of years before, you know, Jesus. Yeah, that's because that's what the beast co-opted as doctrine or whatever. But that's not, you know, the authentic thing. That's actually the other side of things. And it's like the greatest deceit. The greatest deceit comes from people that are looking like they're like, how to say, not peddling, but like just they're the purveyors of whatever the church is, you know. And when the church sits on the gold mine, and then the beast sits on the gold mine, and you see like what they're actually talking about, it's the exact opposite. And you know, they put themselves up in that seat. They call themselves, well, he calls himself Vicar of Christ. Don't get me started on the beast, but let's close actually with this. Apocalypse chapter 13. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb. So he looks like the lamb. Okay? But check it out. He spoke as a dragon, and he exercised all the power of the first beast before him, and caused the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. And he does great wonders, so that he makes fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceived them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image of the beast, to the beast which had been wounded by the sword and did live. This is the false prophet, guys. This is the false prophet. And they're setting themselves up as God. And that's the biggest deception, because when someone says it's like, you know, this this study is just like cross-referencing everything, but there's just so much that I just want to cover. It's not just Daniel. It's not just the book sealed to the this. I don't know how I'm gonna. I might change the title. I might not, because there's just so much in here that I want to talk about. But yeah, let's hold on. I just gotta check something out here. I already did this here, actually. Where is it? Da, 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 da. Basically, this passage here, if I can get it. 2:18. Yeah. Little children, it is the last time. And as you have heard, that Antichrist shall come. Even now are there many Antichrists, plural. Plural. What is an Antichrist? Is someone that stands in the place of Christ, as Christ, and diverts basically the attention, and does exactly opposite. So it's both. It's in the place of, but it's also opposite. Whereby we know that it is the last time. And then he goes on in the where am I? Yeah. That's basically it. So this is the point. And when somebody sets themselves up as, as the divine, or an institution up as purveyors of the divine, then we can see that this whole thing is kind of set up against the truth seekers, the real believers. But there's one last thing that I want to point out here. We'll just close with what the beast does. It's very a very deep subject, because when the beast sets himself up, he literally does this in Jerusalem. But yeah. Maybe not today, because that would go on. That would go on a long, another whole long tangent, and I'm already kind of running late today. But I mean, we got the live stream working, which was great. Which was really great, because honestly, I was almost thinking like it wouldn't work out. But yeah, I guess I'll just close with this thing here. So this is what's going to happen first. There will be a falling away first, and that man of sin will be revealed, the son of perdition or destruction. And people are going to be deceived so much that they actually think the good is the bad, or the bad is good, and then by extension the good is bad. But this guy who sets himself up, the man of sin, this is basically the beast. And the beast isn't a person as much as it is the office, and that's why I say, the city on 7 hills. Well, that's what the text says. That's what it's all about. Who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God or that is worshipped, so that he as God sits in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Right? So this is basically the beast at the end and what goes down, and this is why it's such Such an important thing, not to judge the doctrine by looking at the Church of Rome. I'm just going to say it right out. Do not look at the Church of Rome and say, oh, they do this, so that must mean that that's what Christianity is all about, because they trace the oldest legacy back to the Council of Nicaea and Constantine, the great killer, all of that stuff. All of that history. What does this say? What does this say? Does that condone anything else? Like, I just made a video about the Lord's Prayer, and the disciples come to Jesus and they say, like, how should we pray? And Jesus basically says, don't repeat your prayers. Well, we got to do something about those rosary beads then. and then he's like, don't make a show of your prayers. Don't pray like these elaborate prayers to be seen. He's like, go inside, go into the inner. He says the secret place. He's basically telling us, do the meditation, but don't just meditate and zone out and open your mind to whatever influences want to come in, because there are a lot of spirits that want to hijack you. And trust me, I've had my experience with that. Sorry. I've had my experience with all of that. And getting rid of that stuff, there's only one power greater than all of that. That's the living word. It's not a book. It's not a historical being. Those are shadows of what it is. It's the living word. That logos is the eternal plan. Like the song says, the eternal plan. Anyway, I'm a bit hyper today. It's surprising that I made it to 4 takes of this stream, because honestly, like, otherwise, like, I'm not one to give up, man. I'm a perfectionist, and I know that even if one life is just sparked into change by these messages, it's worth it. And that's the sacrifice I'm making. So yeah, I am a bit hyper today because I just got back from the Freedom March as well, and yeah, it's amazing energy. Even though it was cold, sometimes I like that crisp cold air, right? I like that. The snow, it's fresh snow and it's just melted, and the sky, man, it was one of those crisp, clear days with the sun, and when you were in the sun, it was nice and warm. Man, amazing. I love it. But anyway, guys, I'm gonna end the stream here. I gotta get some food in me, so we're gonna do that. And before I go, though, yeah, I just decree life over all of you guys. Life abundantly. That's what Jesus said. I've come that you might have life, you might have it in abundance. And so that's what it's all about. The enemy, the thief, comes to steal and kill and destroy. The liar. It's not the truth. That's not the truth. The lie has to keep compounding itself, and it's only there to steal the word from inside you. And that word is the truth, right? We're talking about word. We're talking about idios. We're talking about logos. That word is the truth. And the lie can't stand up to the truth, and that's what I'm saying. I pray over all of you guys. Decree, pray. The word pray is a translation, and it meant what it meant in history, but nowadays, with what I know about light language and green language, we're not meant to beg. We're made in the image of Elohim, and that Elohim creates through the spoken word, and we actually have the power to tap into that and decree over each other, decree over our lives, and manifest. That's what it's all about. Where's your faith? And by your faith it is done unto you. So just an abundance, an outpouring of faith over you guys. Every one of you, because you're all individuals before Source. You all have, there's enough power in one person to change the world, to literally bring this messianic age upon us in one person. Imagine what would happen if we all got together with that mindset and started like, that's what I'm seeing this channel is all about. I didn't start out knowing that. All of you guys, just, oh man, I I just send you absolute life in the spirit. That's it. That's what it's all about. And life, that life is the light or the development of men, and that is the Logos. So it's not a wordy declaration, but I'm feeling it really immense, really intense, immensely intense. So receive it, because it's out there and it's sent to you, and no weapon formed against us will prosper. We're coming up on the biggest celebration of the kingdom of darkness, but guess what? Light always overcomes darkness, and every tongue, that is the word they speak against you in judgment, is condemned. This is the inheritance of the servants of Yahweh, and our righteousness, our justice, our justification is of Yahweh. So, with that being said, I always end with the blast of the shofar, because that is the sound of victory. That's the sound that brought the walls of Jericho down. We're bringing the walls of Jericho down in our own time. So, here goes. Shalom, my friends. Shalom.